Hey guys, Script over here with another video. This will be the review of the season finale of Skeleton Crew. To this point, there's been a lot of issues with the plot. It's flimsy, and it's not even because it's just like based on Amblin 80s movies or the fact that with this kind of typical tropes that's been done many times over. It's, yeah, like with the kids and stuff, it's like Lost in Space, and they gotta find their way home, and they gotta face the pirates, and blah, 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 blah. It's not even that. It's the way things were done in this show. The one semi-redeeming quality so far has been that the kids' acting has actually been pretty good. The kids themselves are kind of fun, and their relationship's kind of fun. Even the oldest girl, Fern, as annoying as she is, she's playing her role really well, and it fits. Typical trope, but it fits. There's a lot of problems with the plot, though. The kids get away way too easy, way too many times. The pirates make stupid decisions way too much, which again leads to the kids escaping really easily. Too many conveniences, too many plot contrivances. Here's an example really quick when they found the treasure room from the captain underneath the resort in that one planet. And then like all the booby traps the captain set up to get to his treasure, all of them would kill you. But the one that the kids happened to fall down to escape wasn't going to kill them and led them outside down this big tube to safety. So it's like, again, pretty convenient. So there's a lot of that type of stuff where things just happen in such a way. So it's kind of flimsy. It's almost as if they didn't take a lot of time to write this. But then again, they seem to take a lot of time. So Disney on a whole, writing-wise, seems flimsy for the most part. This is a show where I just don't understand how they didn't catch some of this stuff. How they didn't think the audience wouldn't catch some of this stuff. People argue like, oh, it's a kid's show. The kids won't notice this. And it's like, yeah, to a degree that might be true. But then why would you do an 80s Amblin entertainment model for your show? Why was that what you were basing it on? Because kids today have no clue what that even is. Kids today don't know about E.T. or Lost in Space or Goonies. They don't know any of that. So, like, whether they knew it or not, they were trying to appeal to the nostalgia of, like, 40 and 50-year-olds. And if you're going to do that, I think you should do it for kids as well. I think the plot should make sense for kids as well. I don't think they're stupid. But especially if, like, that's your audience that you're trying to gear towards, you need to make sure these things make sense, and we're not going to be able to tear it apart. The other possibility is that they thought that the Amblin style show would appeal to kids today. There's a possibility there. I don't know. I haven't heard many kids talk about it. Yeah, and like people aren't just throwing their kids on the internet to talk about it, so I don't know if that's the case. We do know, though, that almost nobody's watching this show, and it's worse than The Acolyte for that aspect of it. And we do know that all the shows have been plummeting in overall like viewership or viewer ratings. So let's get into this. This is the final episode. Maybe there's some redemption coming here that's going to make this show better than what it is. I gave the last episode like a 1 to 2, like a 1.5. The overall show right now is like, to me, like a 3, maybe a 3.5. Just based on the kids and the characters and stuff and the acting and stuff. But it's not a very good show at all. So let's get into this. So at the end of the last episode, this pirate, Jedi guy, whatever he is, gets his way. And he has access to these vaults. And pretends that he's the emissary. I don't know how this planet that's just absolutely loaded with security doesn't check who this guy is. They're just going to let him in. Okay. They let him have a lightsaber somehow, and there's kids down there. They brought their parents down there, which made absolutely no sense. They could have just sent their kids to their parents above ground, because the vault is deep down in the planet. None of this stuff makes any sense. And it's all plot convenience, so all the kids and the parents could be in the same room, so that this guy could threaten them. It's very convenient. Another terrible writing decision. But he's down here. They're down here. He's threatening them. And the security droid just stands there And I guess the surveillance doesn't even matter. Like, in this particular day, none of the surveillance really matters, but every other day it's like this huge deal on this planet, but for some reason this is just still being allowed to happen. So what you're seeing in the background here is one of the 1,000 vaults where this mint that's being protected on this planet, that prints Old Republic credits is. This is one of the vaults. And this is obviously what this pirate guy was after. And I knew this was going to start off stupid. The parents shouldn't even be down there. This is so stupid. He's now acting as the emissary, ordering the droids around. Tells them to put their kids and their parents into, like, whatever, confinement or whatever. Have the droids watch over them in their houses or whatever. Again, I ask you, like, on a secure planet, like, let's even look at Earth today, right? Earth 2025, right? So forget about the galaxy far, far away and the tech they have. Let's think about, like, Earth today. Like, if you were in a situation where you had to get into a building or something, like a government building or something, some of them require biotech or you know, like, they require, what do you call it? Biological proof, right? Whether it's an eye scan or face scan. At the very least, you'd have to show your license or some form of photo ID to get into the government building, a courthouse or something like that. Like, if you just said, I'm this person, and you didn't provide proof, you wouldn't be getting in. But he just says he's the emissary. And they just accept that he's the emissary. Why? Because he has an Old Republic ship? Like, there's no security. There's no, like, checks and balances. No one does any digging. No one checks anything out. Fern's mom, who's, like, whatever, probably the highest rank of all the parents in the system that they live under. On AT-ATN, she's, like, you know, the highest up of all of them, of all these parents. And she just accepts that he's the emissary. Like, she doesn't even ask any questions. It's just like, yeah, that's him. It's so dumb. It's such a plot contrivance to move things forward. Jod, who's the pirate, has no business being there without any checks and balances. The whole show is predicated on the back of this planet having this massive amount of security, this massive barrier. No one goes in and out of the planet. You can't even send signals off planet. Nothing goes in and out because they're protecting all this money and all these vaults. And all the citizens work in a system to, you know, keep the mines running and making all this money in this mint. And it's all super, super secure. Like, why would they not check who he is? This is one of the dumbest things I've seen. This is right up there with some of the stupidest writing in Disney Star Wars, pretty much. And this show wasn't that bad up until the last, like, 2 or 3 episodes. Like, obviously there was issues, but it wasn't terrible. It was just kind of meh. Like, nothing compared to the horribleness we've seen with The Acolyte and some of the other shows. But this is so stupid, and how anybody wouldn't notice this watching it, I mean, this makes no sense. What were you thinking, John? Come on. So then Wim and his dad have this kind of pointless conversation, and the droid's standing over them, and Wim doesn't really want to say anything. Whatever. His dad doesn't want to say anything much either. Under normal circumstances, like, your kid comes home after however long, and he was lost, you'd be, like, non-stop questions and talking, but they can't because the security droid guy is standing there. It's pretty much the same bland conversation he's been having with his dad every time there's a scene with his dad in the show so far. So basically, Wim just tells his dad that there are bad guys that are out there that want to wreck stuff, and they're going to ruin the serenity of the situation on AT-ATN. And then it cuts to Jod deciding to take Fern and her mom up to see the supervisor. I'm not really sure why he'd be doing that. I guess to have, like, a hostage or something. But anyway, he's bringing them up to the supervisor. So we're going to finally see the supervisor. Supervisor Tower. The guy that runs everything. I can't imagine that the supervisor's going to actually believe this dude's the emissary. Like, but again, how did he even get in there? How's he even going up there? Like, what is going on? Like, the whole premise of this episode is just so dumb. So it turns out the supervisor is just a droid. Okay. Okay. But it also turns out that the droid is not as stupid as everybody else, so he asks him, you must be lying about one thing or the other. Either you're not the emissary or you're not a Jedi, because the Jedi are traitors to the New Republic. This is also kind of interesting in the sense that, like, the New Republic's stance on Jedi, like, I haven't read Disney Star Wars books like Aftermath or like any of that stuff, so I don't really know what the stance was. I guess I did hear that somebody was negative about Leia because they found out that Vader was her dad. So I guess they still don't like the Jedi, I guess. It is pretty weird, though, that they have the same stance about the Jedi as Palpatine's Empire, that the Jedi were evil. Like, that's kind of weird. Did they not learn anything from the original trilogy? We're doing this again now. We're saying the original trilogy is bubkiss. It's just so weird. I don't get it. It's dumb. Like, in the sequels, Luke Skywalker was like a legend and like a hero. Rey had even heard about him. She thought he was a myth, but she had heard about him. But this takes place prior to that. But the Jedi are bad. And then the droid says they haven't seen an emissary in a long time, so I guess that's... So you're kind of like, maybe this whole setup happened prior to the New Republic, but he's referencing the New Republic. I just don't get it. Whatever, the droid doesn't fall for it. Either you're not a Jedi or you're not the emissary. But if you had proper security, you'd already know he's not actually the emissary. And I guess he's not really a Jedi either. He just knows how to use the Force. I don't know. And then Fern yells out, he's a pirate, and that he's here to loot the vaults or whatever. And then the supervisor droid sicks all the droid guards on Jod. And then Jod kills a couple of them or whatever with his lightsaber, and then jams his lightsaber into the big light, the eye, I guess, of the supervisor. And that's where we're at now. It's just plot contrivances, just escalating from the first episode, and every 2 minutes now. It's really, really bad. And then the super secure, super smart planet decided that if anything happens to the supervisor at all, the power goes out and all the droids shut off, because that's super smart and makes the most sense to protect quadrillions and quadrillions of credits, to have it so that if anything happens to the supervisor, it's a free-for-all on this ultra-secure planet. And of course, in a very convenient plot twist, the entire city is powerless, but the supervisor's tower still has power, and you can shut off the barrier to get the other pirate ship in with buddies on it. But the droids up in the tower all shut off, though, still. They don't have power, but the tower does conveniently, so they could do that, because that's really good writing. And then the pirates come through, and it's kind of like, I don't know how you want to describe it, it's almost like a War of the Worlds influenced scene. And it looks like they're just going to start firing on everybody, on At-Aten. Because I guess he wasn't just here for the money alone. He wants to either get rid of everybody or enslave everybody or something. I guess he just wants to take over the planet, I guess. Jod just wants to take over the whole planet and just mine the daylights out of it, I guess. And in another very convenient plot situation, the entire city is completely shut down. Nothing works except for the speeder bikes. The cars don't work, nothing's running, nothing has power, but the speeder bikes work. Conveniently. And I mean, you could make the argument that they're not attached, quote, to the grid, but the power outage feels like kind of an EMP type of deal. And I don't know. I just think it's way too convenient that those are still running. So despite some of the terrible plot contrivances, there is actually kind of a cool little action sequence with the kids and the dad, Wim's dad, taking the speeder bikes to try and save Fern, and their plan is to take their ship up to out of the barrier and send a signal to the owl lady, I guess, from the earlier episodes that got them the coordinates for At-Aten. And she knows the New Republic and can get some X-Wings there to save them, I guess. That's the plan. But the power's out, and so the ship is clamped into the landing area, so they can't get it out. So they got to go up to the supervisor's tower and somehow get the power going. And like in the last scene we looked at, there's like this tiny little scene where Wim's dad gets a little bit of like power to something. So that's like establishing that he knows how to turn power on, I guess. Anyways, and then he says, I'm a 7th level whatever guy in this thing, so he knows how to turn the power on or something like that, or he'll be able to figure it out. But I mean, whatever. The action sequence was kind of cool, I guess. And then the dad turns the power on by literally flicking 3 switches and pushing a button. It was not I was expecting like some sort of like finding wires behind things and putting this and that together and having some sort of at least semi-complex situation they had to go through. No, it's just flick 3 switches and push a button. Everything just comes a little too easy, right? Like, a little too easy. Wim does a little distraction and he flicks 3 switches and pushes a button. I mean, if that's all it took, then why did the power have to go out at all? Permanently like that until somebody flicked the 3 switches and turned it back on. You see what I'm saying? It's kind of weird. It's dumb. So anyway, the power turns back on. They get the ship out of there. They send the signal to Owl Lady. And then all the pirates start attacking them. I didn't realize Jod left all those fighters up there. Okay, whatever. That's cool. Fine. That's at least something sensible that somebody did. The pirates have done, or anyone's done. So anyway, they're getting attacked. We'll see what happens here. And the New Republic's on their way now. I really hope this isn't a scenario where they just like show up in like 10 minutes. Make the galaxy really, really small, like Disney likes to do with everything for some unknown reason. I guess we'll see what happens. So basically the kids and the parents work together to figure out a way to pull the lever to open the barrier back up again for the New Republic ships that are going to be coming. So the X-Wings can get in or whatever. And Wim's dad punches Jod in the face, which was kind of cool. Didn't know he had it in him. And I was going to say, like, in this scene, so, like, what is with this weird sound it makes in Disney Star Wars whenever anyone uses the Force? It makes, like, this sound. Has anyone else noticed this? Ever since the sequels? Like, you didn't have that in George Lucas Star Wars. Like, anytime anybody uses the Force to do anything, like pick something up or do anything, there's like this, like, whoo sound. Did you guys notice that? Every time. Like, did we need that, guys? Did you need that? Do you not know what's going on to the point where you need, like, a whoo sound every time somebody uses the Force? Every time? And then in this scene, you hear it so many times because Jod's like using the Force like a whole bunch of times. So it's just like, it's so weird and dumb. Why do you guys keep doing this stuff? Why do you do this corny stuff, Disney? Like, why did you do that? It was fine. You didn't need to add the It's so dumb. Anyway, I think Wim's dad's going to pull the lever and then the X-Wings are going to come and that's pretty much going to be the end of it. Good times. So the barrier goes away and I'm still trying to figure out how any of this is possible with no power, but then there is power, but then there isn't power, but there is power, but in a certain spot only. Even though the supervisor that's closest to the power knocked everything out forever, but in this, again, it's pretty nonsensical. There's some emotion with the kids and stuff and all that stuff. I'll give them that worked. Again, there's some parts of the story that they did, some parts of the story with the characters that does work, but the basic plot points are just pretty dumb. That's all I can say. There's nothing else to say. So it turns out that KP, who looked like she crash landed, just kind of went into a building and everything's fine. And she was helped by SM-33 while she like held his head. I don't really know. His head isn't attached to his body. Somehow his head was turned on, whatever. Again, the visual of him holding his head and not having a head, instead of it making sense. Anyway, so they're fine, and they do a shot of a Corvette coming into the atmosphere. I don't know what the point of that is. I guess we'll see. But everybody's saved. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So then you hear Jod saying, "Whim, whim," or something from inside the Corvette, I guess. So I guess they arrested him, and that's the whole story, I guess. So ultimately, again, there were some cool things with the characters. Yeah, there's some emotion there and stuff like that, but a lot of just crappy plot contrivances. This show's sort of an illustration of what I've been saying all along, that these shows are just diminishing the brand. I don't think Star Wars should have ever been on television. Okay, some random side story way off somewhere else that's just some place in the galaxy. It doesn't impact the greater galaxy. It's just not the level that Star Wars should be. Yes, I think a lot of that started with the Clone Wars, and they're just continuing it. But the live action stuff on all these Disney Plus series are ultimately meh. They're meh. This is a meh-episode. There's some things I like. Like I said, the action sequences were pretty good. There's just too much ease of passage through problems and for problem solving. It's just way too easy for the protagonists. It lacked depth, and ultimately, what was the point of it, right? I guess the whole point was getting her mom to realize that all of the security and safety isn't necessarily all it's cracked up to be. I guess that's the moral of the story. One of them, I guess. Whim's dad realizing that Whim's nature of wanting to explore and his explorer's nature is actually a good thing, and to be supportive of that. Neil and his parents, there wasn't really any change there at all. He's who he is. He didn't change at all. KP, kind of the same character she was throughout the whole show. Not really much happened there. Like the end growth, like the end result, there's not really much there for either of those two characters. The relationship between the characters are pretty cool overall, but this show is meaningless on so many levels, because on one level, it's meaningless in terms of the greater galactic story. It's completely meaningless in terms of what it did with the kids, other than just two relationships with two of the parents. Like I said, Whim's dad and Fern's mom. I don't know what this was for. What was the point of this? It cost a lot of money to make. You put Steve Urkel in it. I guess that's cool, I guess. I don't know, but otherwise it really didn't serve a purpose. Other than, like I said, those two relationships. That's really the only two things you see come out of this. Is just that. The two parents. I guess the Fern grew to be a little bit softer by the end of it is another thing, I guess. I'm trying to think if there's really anything else. So there's Whim and his dad, Fern and her mom, Fern becoming a little bit softer and more understanding. Is there anything else? I don't think there's anything else there. And this is kind of the problem, the first focus of these guys, whatever show Disney's making is we want to emulate this model. Whether it's Stranger Things, Goonies, whether it's Game of Thrones, to a degree with Andor. Yeah, like the top priority is we want to emulate this style of show. And then they write around that. And I think it would behoove them, it's too late now, the brand is tarnished at this point, but it would have behooved them to write the story first and to concentrate on Star Wars and what Star Wars is about and the gravity, particularly, the main stories of Star Wars rather than these side quests, whatever, but focus on that first and then let the style naturally take its form on the back of that. So they're doing everything backwards. It's the same way when they really want a shot of something, whether it's Anakin's helmet cut or all the ships coming out of hyperspace in The Rise of Skywalker. And, so to have Anakin's helmet cut, they have to have a Kenobi show where it breaks lore of Vader and Kenobi fighting when they're not supposed to be. And they don't consider what it means to have Lando go and somehow get thousands of people in like 15 hours. In the space of 15 hours, he somehow flew all around the galaxy and got all these people involved. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. They don't think about that. It's just, the visual. I mean, so it just doesn't make any sense. So they put the shot ahead of the story. They put the genre ahead of the story. They put the influence ahead of the story, rather than worrying about the story first. It doesn't make sense. They need to worry about that. Are there plot contrivances? Are there plot holes? Are there issues that way? That needs to be the focus. And then whatever happens with the style of it, as long as all that stuff is taken care of, can come after that. But they always seem to do everything backwards, and they, instead of doing that, they worry about the stylistic stuff ahead of the story stuff. And they've been doing this for a very, very long time. They've really been doing this since The Force Awakens, and to a greater extent, The Last Jedi and everything after that. So that's my rant on this show, and ultimately it's like a 3 out of 10, maybe 3.5 at the most. It's kind of cute in some spots, but mostly it's kind of dumb. I don't know who this was made for. I don't know what the purpose of this being made was. I don't know what the purpose of the Acolyte being made was. I don't know what the purpose of the Book of Boba Fett was being made was. I don't know what the purpose of any of these shows was, other than, I guess, maybe Mando season 1 and 2, sort of. What was the purpose of any of this? What was the purpose of the sequels? What was the reason? To do what exactly? What had already been done anyway. So none of it has a purpose, and they're putting the cart before the horse in everything instead of figuring out what is the purpose, what are we trying to convey, what message are we trying to put out there. It's all about visuals and styles and the way things look, and then all the stuff that really matters gets overlooked, and then they wonder why fans are like, this is dumb. And so this show ultimately is pretty dumb. I don't even really hate it, I just nothing it. It's nah. Anyway, guys, that's my rant. I'm not doing another one. I'm not going to do like a season review for this. I'm just not doing it. This is the season review right now. This last couple minutes. So anyways, I just don't know why they'd keep doing this, but whatever. Let me know in the comment section what you think. If you like this content, please like, subscribe, let's help the channel. Feel free to check anything else on my channel. Have yourselves a really good day.